Nigerians are expected to seek out the best.
Two words to describe the activity. The Yoruba Unity Forum is conducted.
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa, we break the news. Now you can catch all the actions live as the news spreads. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV Primetime
Our 24-hour news station.
Hello, thank you for joining us back again on Core Digest Extra. We're back here at our discussion segment, and we'll be taking a look at issues ahead of the general elections, talking about the state of the nation. What exactly is happening now? Because we know that there are a lot of issues surrounding the political campaigns and the rescheduled elections is another issues that have been heating up the polity in the past 2 or 3 weeks right now. And I have a professor of international law and the former vice chancellor of Ekiti State University of Ado-Ekiti at that time, and now he teaches international law at the University of Lagos. Professor Akin Oyebode, thank you for joining us on Core Digest Extra this morning.
You're most welcome.
I hope I did introduce it very well.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah, Professor, let's begin with what is your impression with some of these preparations, issues around the rescheduled election, and of course the card reader. What is your impression so far ahead of this new rescheduled election date?
Well, I sympathize very much with my friend Atahiru Jega for his predicament. You know, Nigerians have been voting since 1922, so we are not newcomers to the ballot box. But the way we've been conducting our elections had been a little bit less than adequate. I think Jega wants to drag us forcibly into the 21st century by employing gadgets that will reduce the stress and the strains of elections in order to deliver what he called a free, fair, and credible. Some people have added transparent elections. So in that sense, one recognizes the attitude of those who want to live in the past. Because in the past, if you recall, we've had ballot snatching, we've had thuggery, we've had election results being written when the elections did not take place. We've had what you can call a caricature of democracy. Now, Jega and his men have been to different places here in Africa, in the rest of the world, India. They've been in the United States of America, and think that the time was ripe to bring Nigeria to the level of more developed democracies. I don't see why anybody should be fearful of the card reader or a permanent voter's card, except for the delay in the delivery of the permanent voters' cards. I have mine. I picked up mine without any stress. Maybe because the university is a civilized campus, so nobody can afford to play games in a university. So I picked up my card the first day. They said we should pick the cards up. But Jega himself confessed that he has almost 1 million cards yet to be printed, produced in China. So definitely there have been some lapses in terms of on-target delivery. So we are lucky that we had to reschedule the elections. We would have had eggs on our faces because many people would have been disenfranchised if the elections were held as originally scheduled for the 14th of February. So in a way, I think it's a unique opportunity for Nigeria to play according to the rules of modern democratic praxis. So I think Nigerians just have to feel for Jega and allow him to deliver as he promised. I think many critics have been uncharitable about
because did you see when he appeared before the Senate, a lot of people, even before then, some within the Senate, there were some a kind of division that the card reader shouldn't be used, and some say it should be used. Do you think those who say it shouldn't be used, do you think they have a kind of agenda or a hidden agenda for going against using a card reader for the election?
Very much so. I think they have something up their sleeves. As I said, the voices of the past and retrogression, they're allergic to change and to compliance with international best practices. Nigeria prides itself as the largest economy in Africa, as the largest concentration of black people on this planet, as a country on the upscale in terms of development. So I don't see why people should evince any panic or at least allergies about invoking or applying technology to facilitate the electoral process. I think what some people were saying was that the Electoral Act forbids use of electronic voting devices. But Jega, I think, adequately answered that query by saying the card readers will be used just for accreditation, not for voting. The voting will still be manual, unlike what you have in other places. I think we have not even reached that level, where after the voting ends, we could make projections and forecast of the turnout in terms of who is likely to win. We have not gone that far. I think we've made, we must have made some advances in weeding out fake voters or those who want to engage in multiple voting. And I think we should commend Jega for his initiative, for his courage to do the needful. Because it's really embarrassing that a country of the size of Nigeria will continue to pretend that it was democratic when all manner of shenanigans apply within the political space.
Okay, you did say earlier, Professor, that we're so lucky, that Nigeria is so lucky to have had the election shifted. And now there is some bit of fear that it might be shifted again or postponed again. Are you also concerned, or are you nursing that fear as well?
Well, Jega said that he was not responsible for security. That his outfit was an election conducting agency. Security is a matter for security people. But it's really sad and embarrassing that the security agencies seem to have a lane, almost a power of veto on when and how we're going to conduct our elections. I am aware that the law does not play a role, does not envisage a role for the military. And only last week we had the Court of Appeal affirm their position, which was earlier stated at the Sokoto High Court. So I was surprised to hear that the government insists that it was going to thumb its nose or its finger in the face of the law by saying, come rain, come shine, soldiers were going to be deployed. For me, it seems that Nigeria is an underdeveloped democracy. If you look elsewhere, you don't see people carrying guns or bayonets near the polling units. It shows the complete lack of security and the lack of inculcating, as I said, international best practices for me to have soldiers superintending the electoral process. It's bad enough that you have uniformed policemen and civil defense agents, hopefully without guns at the polling stations. But by the time you bring armed militia to the polling stations, that is a sad comment on the state of affairs of the polity. In terms of what Jega would do, he himself said, look, if push came to shove, come March 28th, if the situation is not conducive to the conduct of the election, then he might be left with no alternative than to shift the date to another date. But you know, the law is clear. He cannot act up to, more than 150 days to the handing over. So it still has some leeway, but it will be a joke carried too far if once again we tell the world that don't take Nigeria for its words. It's bad enough that we've been embarrassed by bringing in monitors and all sorts of people and to tell them we are not ready. If again we say we are not ready, maybe impliedly we will have proven General Obasanjo right. Because you remember General Obasanjo saying that it was a reenactment of the Gbagbo scenario. Now, if Nigeria, yes, if Nigeria wants to maintain some scintilla of good reputation within the international community, I think it should do all that it can to ensure that the elections this time around hold as scheduled.
Okay, Professor, should that happen, or should this rescheduled date now, should that again be postponed? Isn't that a constitutional crisis looming? What are your thoughts on that?
No, that's what I was saying, because the handing over day that everybody has been trumpeting as sacrosanct,
yes.
May 29, the law says the elections should have been held not later than 150 days.
Exactly.
Okay? To the handing over date. So if you read backwards, I believe the last opportunity we have is the April 11th, because May, you know, is so close by, and we are talking of all sorts of imponderables, especially in Nigeria, where it is not the practice for people to abide by the results, because those who have lost the elections will go to court and challenge the results, alleging that the elections were not free, fair, or credible. So the 180 days that the law provides for in terms of resolving the situation has not even helped matters, because you have situations in the past when those who were alleged to have rigged themselves into power continue to exercise power without responsibility. And in the event, if they now lose at the electoral tribunal, are you going to ask them to disgorge all the meals they had eaten in the state house, or to ask their spouses to unravel the big gilets that they have put on as first lady or what have you? So I think, again, we're back to the drawing board in terms of what we have to do to ensure that we have free, fair, transparent, and credible elections according to the schedule prescribed by the umpire. INEC is supposed to be an impartial umpire, the sole determinant of when and how elections you hold. But if INEC now says it's not a free agent, then the whole polity is in serious predicament.
Well, let me take you back again a
Yes.
bit. You're talking about militarization. You said a court affirmed that that shouldn't apply in 2015. But looking at the kind of the people we are, so violent, sometimes we're lawless, I mean, we break law and all that. Do you think if that didn't happen, we will have a very conducive and free election that is devoid of violence?
Well, you have to go to the political behavior of Nigerians. That it's very rare for the electoral process to go on without some violence. We just have to minimize the incidence of violence. I find it really almost laughable that foreign diplomats are bringing Nigerian political actors to enter into agreements on non-violence. We also have a situation where commissioners of police in the various states are bringing the political actors to come and sign pieces of paper regarding non-violence. Those are mere paper tigers, because really, can you enforce such engagement in court? I think these are just attempts at a political therapy to say and repeat that we should not engage in violence. But what we've seen even last week in Okrika, where about 200 policemen could not contain explosions and gunfire from the enemies of free and open society, those who don't agree in a free marketplace of ideas. I would say they are fascists who really want to carry the day and don't allow people to ventilate their political interests. The same thing we saw last week, in fact this week, I understand in Plateau, where people have been killed for their political beliefs. We had young people throwing stones in Bauchi, in Katsina, and so, except even in Lagos, where we hear that we are very cosmopolitan and sophisticated, we have reports of violence in certain parts of Lagos. So it seems that violence is part and parcel of Nigeria's political culture. Always, we have work cut out for us to contain violence, because democracy is about choice among competing ideas, competing manifestos, competing political parties, and competing political actors. If people do not have what Montesquieu called the right to go to heaven the way they want, then we're in serious trouble. Okay? It means that we are attempting to play democracy without democrats. That is what it appears to me to look like.
Well, Professor, I just want us to take a break now. When we come back, of course, we'll talk more on some of these issues. This is called Digest Extra. We'll take a break now. Be back shortly. Join us again.
From time immemorial, women have built life, shaped character, and by extension, influenced the society. Moremi of Ife, Emoten of Benin, Queen Aminat of Zaria, all women of influence and power.
Whether it's before election, after election.
How ironical. Women being so powerful, yet have few grounds in decision making.
They see you as a wife, and I see you as a wife to a man.
We are talking women in politics.
A woman will be bold enough to stand up and say, I want to become president of Nigeria.
Only on Core TV News.
It's another beautiful and exciting moment.
Welcome to Political Arena,
The most detailed and incisive political show.
You will see all sorts of politicians, even those who cannot manage their homes, will tell you to let them manage your lives. Look well, shine your eyes.
So stomach infrastructure is a way of life. Even if I cannot do anything, and I continue to help your stomach so that your life will keep on going. Stomach infrastructure is a way of life for me.
I should ask you, what is going right in this country? Is it education? Is it security? Infrastructure? Is it healthcare? What is going right? Absolutely nothing.
We mean to win Lagos. PDP is going to win Lagos in 2015.
INEC has colluded with the presidency, the opposing party, to rig this election from the data to the end.
The 2015 general elections must be the best.
The good, bad, ugly, and beautiful sides of the Nigerian political system. Join me every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. on Core TV News.
It's called Digest Extra, and we're discussing state of the nation ahead the general election coming March 28 and April 11. Professor Akin, Oyebode is still in the house. Thank you for being in the studio with us. Let's take a look away from election now. You were one of the delegates to the national conference, and we've seen some of the issues addressed, part-time legislature, additional 18 state, and rotational of a presidency, state police, power devolution, and some other issues. Why is it that we've not really seen this implementation after the conference?
I think you have to ask President Jonathan that, because he had his reasons for convening the national conference, and those of us who were opportune to be delegates went there with the mindset to do a good job to save Nigeria from perdition. The conference came out with over 600 recommendations, but then the conference did not have the power to really bring into fruition its recommendations. Mind you, the conference was not a constituent assembly. So we even need a constituent
Sorry, let's
assembly.
quickly pick up this call, Professor. Hello. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Yeah, I think we lost him. Go ahead, sir.
As I said, the Constitution lacked the powers to implement its recommendations. The recommendations were passed on to President Jonathan, and President Jonathan promised to all Nigerians that he was going to make sure that the recommendations saw the light of day. Now, so many months after the conference, I believe the recommendations are still there. Some of us expressed anxiety that the recommendations might actually be dead on arrival. And
let me hold you there, Professor. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Who is calling? Where are you calling from?
Dr. Folari is calling from Oyebode.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Folari.
Dr. Agbola.
Okay, Dr. Agbola. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, I want to contribute to the debate about the militarization of the electoral process.
Yes, please go ahead. Make it straight to the point.
Our behavior and the political, we are talking of. Yeah. Okay, I said I support the militarization of the electoral process because we are not right in this country. We are comparing America, Ghana, and so forth. We look at the political environment. So when we use the military to take at the strategic phase, look at what it is about. We lost 8 puppets. Do we want the repeat or the recurrence of that thing? We have to prevent. So I believe that when we are right, the military will be withdrawn.
Okay.
And then the electoral process will be free from military to supervise. That is my contribution.
Thank you very much, Dr. Agbola, for making your contribution. Professor, do you have, I think he was talking about the same thing you were talking about, political culture, and back then what we're used to. I think he was also concerned that the use of military also shouldn't be.
no, he said the military for now should play a role in the political process because of political behavior.
Okay, maybe I didn't hear him
Yes,
very well.
That is what he said. Well, in this matters, his opinion is as good as anyone says. I believe that using the military in the electoral process is a symptom of political underdevelopment. And there I agree with him. But even in Ghana, next door, you have free interplay of forces without an overarching military supervising the proceedings. Then something basically is wrong with the polity, as I said earlier on. You cannot have a slightly pregnant woman. I mean, you're either pregnant or you are not pregnant. So for me, if you are democratic and you are operating a democratic system, you should let the police and maybe civil defense authorities oversee the electoral process, not soldiers. Soldiers are not supposed. Soldiers are supposed to protect the polity from external aggression and, if need be, internal insurrection. The electoral process is not insurrection. It's a process of deciding who the next government should be. So, and soldiers have a tendency to intimidate. Okay, the people are still fearful of soldiers. You remember when soldiers go on trial in their shooting ranges, we normally come up with statements asking the community not to be fearful when they hear the booms of guns. That type of notice should not have been in place because historically soldiers were not to be seen around. Their barracks were far removed from the civilians. When I was young, you seldom saw soldiers on the streets in Lagos. Okay, not because after 30 years of hijacking political power, they've tasted the forbidden fruit, and so it's very difficult now to isolate.
Let's quickly pick up this call as well. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good
Yeah, good morning. Welcome to Call Digest Extra. What's calling and where you're calling from?
Thank you. This
You have
is,
60 seconds, please.
Brian calling from Abuja.
Okay, Ismail Ibrahim, go ahead.
Yes, I want to thank the professor.
Go ahead, Ismail Ibrahim. You have 60 seconds to make your contribution.
I want to thank the professor for enlightening and giving us more evidence. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the professor was talking about the national conference. Yes, hello?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ismail. We can hear you.
The national conference, yes. The national conference, the president now is talking much about it, yet he did not implement all those things.
Oh, I get it. Hello, Ismail.
Can you hear me?
Please, I can hear you. Just go straight and talk. Go ahead and talk. But you have less than 60 seconds now.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, yeah, it's okay. The president is campaigning about the national conference. Meanwhile, all the things in that national conference have not been implemented. So I don't know why he's boasting about what he's not implementing. Please, I want the professor to tell us what they have agreed at the conference. Nothing has been done, and the president has been leveraging on it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Ismail. When you call again, please make sure you tone down the volume of your TV set, then we can hear you clearly. And you have 60 seconds to make your contribution. Yeah, the caller wants to know what exactly was the agreement, and all of that in that conference before. Because why have we not seen much of that? I think you need to talk a bit of that.
Well, as I said earlier on, more than 600 recommendations were made at the national conference, from political party structure, independent candidacy, state police, all sorts of things, increase in the role of women and young people. So where do we start from? In fact, the conference came up with the format for a new constitution for Nigeria. But to have a new constitution for Nigeria, we need a constituent assembly that will now adopt or do whatever is necessary to do to create and present to us this new constitution. Because many of us believe that the constitution we are operating now is tantamount to living a lie. The Constitution of 1999, the Abdul Salam Constitution, is Decree 24 of 1999. By no stretch of the imagination can a military decree be considered as the constitution of a people. The people as a people have the right and they have the power to enact the constitution for themselves. So we think the constitution is discredited. We need a new one.
Okay, let me hold your thought there, Professor. Hello, good morning. Who's calling and where you're calling from? Please tell us your name. Pardon?
Ochuku from Ilorin.
Go ahead, Ochuku. Thank you for calling. Hello, Ochuku. Go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning. My name is Ochuku from Ilorin.
Yes, we can hear you. Please tone down the volume of your TV set. You have 60 seconds.
My name is Ochuku from Ilorin. Yes, Professor, thanks a lot. You see, as a youth of Nigeria many, many years back, I have never believed in the unity of Nigeria after the Civil War.
Hello, Ochuku.
And up to this very moment, Nigerians are still busy thinking we can be together. Have we ever one day sat down together and asked ourselves, are we really meant together? I can remember vividly at the age of 18 when I read in the newspaper when Sadana of Sokoto asked the question that who made Nigeria? Is it the British? Is it God? He said it's the British and that Nigeria was a mistake.
Okay.
why don't we go our different ways and let there be peace amongst ourselves? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ochiko, for making your contribution. Thank you very much. Yeah, you have anything to say on what he said, Professor?
Well, the idea of the national conference was to bridge the gaps existing between various sectors and segments of the Nigerian polity. Although we were not elected, we were nominated and all that, but the various constituencies in Nigeria were one way or another represented. And the idea was to, as I said, seal up the fault lines of Nigeria so that Nigeria will continue to exist. We were laboring behind the feeling of having just celebrated the centenary of Lord Lugard's creation in Nigeria. And people felt that we've come to a long way together, and let's continue to live peaceably, correct all the anomalies in the polity in order to give us a better relationship amongst ourselves. I personally would prefer to live in Nigeria than live in a minuscule state. In fact, if you remember at the conference, I said we should change the name Nigeria to Songhai, and people did not understand the motive behind.
Well, why did you say so?
Well, I wasn't being original. Dr. Kalu Ezera in 1960 had made that suggestion at the Federal House of Representatives, where he was slapped to scorn, just like I was slapped to scorn, because people say, why Songhai? Just to give the impression that we want a new country. We should not bandy around nigger area. We don't call ourselves niggers. And you know, the word Nigeria comes from nigr, the Latin for black. So it's pejorative. In fact, when we describe ourselves as Nigerians, just as one of my colleagues said, we need a new flag. He said the flag we have, the green, white, green, was insipid without the original design with the, for instance, that the original design had a sun in the middle. But again, people did not feel persuaded. Those who are comfortable with the past, I don't want to change.
Okay, Professor, you suggested that federalism system of government at the national conference. Why did you suggest that, and how will the Nigerian practicing or functioning that way is any better than what we have now? But let's quickly pick up this. Okay, go ahead. I think we lost him.
Well, if you remember my contribution at the conference, I recalled the sentiments of Senator Ekiremadu.
So let's quickly pick up this call just before we proceed. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. You have 6 seconds. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Saidu. I'm calling from Yola.
Okay, go ahead, Saidu.
Please, I have comment to say about our 2015 election.
Go ahead, Saidu.
Okay. What is happening that we concern about what is happening in Rivers State in Okrika. So, sir, please, we have security in this country. We have police security, and we have SS security. I wonder why this thing will happen when APC make their campaign rally. So please, if this thing is happening, we know that PDP behind all these things is happening. And they are control of the security, and they have all things. That's why they are want to bring all this violence, because they are not. They are going to fail.
Okay.
So we want to assure people that we APC we didn't have all these things.
Okay, thank you very much, Saidu, for calling and making your contribution. I guess he wants to know your thoughts, why we keep having violence during campaign and ahead of the general elections. But just before let's take it one after the other. Just before we go to that place, you were talking about the federalism system, and
yes.
I think you need to expatiate about that.
Well, I said Senator Akin delivered a speech, I believe 2 years ago in my law school in Toronto, where he said Nigeria was operating a feeding bottle federalism, that the constituent units are like babies, and they have to go to replenish their feeding bottles every month at Abuja. In other words, we don't operate what you call a true federal setup.
All right.
The federal units, the units that constitute or comprise the federation, they don't have the wherewithal for their sustenance. So we have to reorder the allocation of powers, what you call division of powers between the federation and the states to empower the constituent units. As of now, the federal government has about 68 items which it monopolizes. We have to devolve powers to the constituent units so that they will have the wherewithal to perform instead of looking up all the time to Abuja. And that is why, to answer the question of the fellow who called previously, the battle for the control of the federal sector is a do-or-die matter, because the source of all the good things of life in this country is the key that opens the door to money, to power, to influence, and what have you. So that's why people go for broke in terms of the struggle for power.
Okay, as we round up now, Professor, just tell us the preparation to this election in 2011, I mean 2012, 15, and what we had back then in 2011. What has really improved? What have we improved on so far in this 2015?
Well, at least you can say that the 2015 elections appear to be a straight fight between those who want more of the same, who want to maintain the status quo, and those who want a turnaround. They want to alter the ball game. They want change. So the forces of progress and change are contending against the forces of reaction and retrogression. So the choice before the electorate, I think, is stark. Those who want what we have will fight in the election through the ballot box, and those who want a change also will want a turnaround. So it's a very interesting game of musical chairs in the way I see it. And it seems to me, because the two parties are very similar, okay, in terms of where they are coming from, and even in terms of the dramatis personae, that the choice might be actually very difficult to make, except for the sentiment, because it's a choice between Okeke and Okereke, you know, Abiola and Abiono. So really, Nigeria is up in the air, it's up for grabs. So it's very difficult to really say who will carry the day. It's a very interesting scenario that we're experiencing now.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor, for coming on the show. Professor Akin Oyebode teaches international law at the University of Lagos, a former Vice Chancellor of University of Ado-Ekiti. Thank you for being part of Cold Digest Extra this morning.
You're welcome. Well,
and that's where we wrap it up on this week's edition of Cold Digest Extra. I am Frank Omalapi, and thank you to all of you that called to make your contribution. We'll do this next week again. Bye-bye for now.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digi360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.